Las Vegas, PHLV Radio.
Are you ready to travel? We got all the travel buzz here on Smart People Travel Wise with Alvin Adriano on PHLV Radio.
Hello, mabuhay, and good day to everyone watching. Thank you for being here on our 7th episode on Smart People Travel Wise. The travel bug is starting to itch for many people, and I am so excited to get back to traveling the world and exploring the amazing places around the globe. But first, I am so grateful for all of you that continue to support the show and would not be possible without your loyalty. So thank you for watching, and please share to your friends, family, and members, or anyone who just loves to travel. My name is Alvin Adriano, CEO of TravelWise International, and today I have the pleasure of reaching across the world to bring today's guest. But before we do, let me remind all of our viewers, if you're watching this live, please hashtag live. And if you're watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay. Let us also know where you're watching from because we want to represent your hometowns. You can also watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can listen on the show on Amazon Fire, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Or even better, you can download the app on PHLV Radio, available on all iOS and Android devices. So as the vaccinations continue to rise and tourism is prepping for a speedy return, after months of cancellations, delays, and confinement, I know everyone is ready to pack their bags and jump on a plane. At TravelWise International, we are so excited to get back to work and connect people to dream destinations and other cultures. As we continue to envision our next future adventure, on today's show, we'll be diving into the world of Southeast Asia. Wrapped in rainforests, edged by golden sands, crowned by volcanoes, and studded with ruins of lost civilizations, this is a destination you've always imagined. For a little context for all the viewers, Southeast Asia is a vast region of Asia situated east of the Indian subcontinent and south of China. It consists of two dissimilar portions, a continental projection, which is called the mainland, and a string of archipelagos to the south and the east of the mainland, insular Southeast Asia. It extends over 700 miles and is southward from the mainland into insular Southeast Asia. It's also known as the Malay Peninsula. This peninsula is structurally part of the mainland, but it also shares many ecological and cultural affinities with the surrounding islands and thus functions as a bridge between the two regions. Mainland Southeast Asia is divided into the countries of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, and small city-state of Singapore at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, which occupy the eastern portion of the mainland, often are collectively called the Indonesian Peninsula. Malaysia is both mainland and insular, with a western portion on the Malay Peninsula and an eastern part on the island of Borneo. Except for the small sultanate of Brunei, the remainder of the insular Southeast Asia consists of the archipelago nations of Indonesia and the Philippines. Currently, as of June 15, 2021, the majority of Southeast Asia remains closed for international travelers, and the restrictions imposed have been some of the most strictest and challenging constraints for travel. As we continue to forge forward, there continues to be a lot of misconceptions about venturing off to this beautiful collection of countries. But on today's show, we will be discussing with Jeremiah Johnson, founder of Luxe Voyage Asia, based out of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. He has been a tour operator for many years and has been able to weather the storm and continues to create tailor-made experiences for wandering explorers. At Luxe Voyage Asia, they believe that luxury travel starts with an altitude of quality and that their team has been able to create distinctive experiences that continue to embrace the destination and the preferences of the traveler in mind. So instead of me rambling on, let me introduce you to our special guest, Jeremiah Johnson, speaking to us all from the other side of the world in Cambodia. Please smash those heart buttons and kindly give Mr. Johnson a well-deserved thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Alvin.
You're welcome. Jeremiah, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, thank you. It's actually morning over here.
Oh, yeah. Time difference is about 13 hours ahead?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually 11 from the East Coast. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I think we were mentioning it earlier, we're on the East Coast, we're experiencing our beginning of our summer, but in Cambodia and Southeast Asia, it's the rainy season, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, this is the wet season.
So I know I briefly mentioned about your, bio, but for all of our viewers, could you really just give a little background information about Luxe Voyage Asia and yourself?
Sure. So I actually first visited Asia back in my college days. I was going to find an ancient Chinese instrument. I studied guitar and music in college. And I went to find this instrument that less than 1,000 people play in the world called the guqin. It's over 3,000 years old. And the college actually didn't teach it, but I ended up finding someone who could teach it to me, who was, his father was a grandmaster guqin player. He was also in the movie Hero with Jet Li. And so I ended up getting really lucky just finding, the right people in the town that I was studying at. So that was my first experience in Asia. Then I came back about 9 years ago to Siem Reap, Cambodia, visiting temples, Angkor Wat, and just really fell in love with this region. It's a lot warmer than the U.S., in Iowa, where I'm originally from, and just a completely different culture. The people here are just so incredibly friendly and welcoming. So I've been enjoying learning the region, learning the languages. I also am married, have a wife from Battambang province in Cambodia, who I met. We got married 5 years ago, and we've got 3 children now. And so, yeah, I'm having a wonderful time exploring the region and learning about all these cultures and sharing that with my fellow Americans who want to come visit.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's the whole premise of traveling, to explore different cultures, see different perspectives, and then to bring along a little bit of the country as you learn more about yourself and about how you live and the different things that, come evolve. And I guess that's how Luxe Voyage Asia came about. I mean, your travels and just sharing your experiences with others. When did you start your tour operation?
So actually, I started with another operator back in 2014, and then I met a lot of the key people in our company there. And then we branched out, wanting to focus, that tour operator focused on group tours, a lot of large group tours, but we wanted to focus on more luxury private travel, private groups. So we branched out from there in 2016 and with focus on luxury and private travel. And so some of the same people I've been working with since 2014, like Jason, you haven't met Charles, but he's in Canada as someone that we're all in the same company. We're kind of a family together. And we've managed to weather through this interesting last year and a half. So, yeah.
It's the best. I mean, that's the one thing that I do love about traveling. It's some, destinations and cultures and learning, but sometimes the best things that you come away for are lifelong friends. And, the experiences and the things that and the people that you meet. I mean, it really changes the way you think about socializing with different people, sharing knowledge and insights. That's what I do miss about traveling all around the world, just being able to talk to people and just see it from their eyes. So I'm so glad that you were able to build something with your friends into something that's your passion. And that's, I guess, basically what we're here talking about, your experiences with Southeast Asia and how that has evolved after the pandemic. And so digging right into it, how has the pandemic been for you as an American in Cambodia?
So it's been interesting. Most of the pandemic, things have been pretty open and free. They've been pretty relaxed here. Obviously, getting into the country or out of the country is quite a bit of a gymnastics class to do. But living here, I can go outside, do what I wish. You wear a mask, of course, when you're out. I mean, there's some similar restrictions. More recently, though, Siem Reap, they've had a few lockdowns, and also Phnom Penh because of some recent outbreaks. They were fortunate most of the pandemic to not have any outbreaks, actually. For the original, for about 6 months there, we had basically 1 to 2 outbreaks a month, or just no outbreaks at all. So we were very fortunate that way. Yeah.
Oh, wow. We evaluate different, strategic plans on how they were going to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think it was really important to be very strict because, when we talk about infrastructure and resources, when you talk about Southeast Asia, they don't have the resources that we do in America, being able to obtain so many access to the vaccinations. I think the rollouts in Cambodia and Southeast Asia are still lacking, but they're moving and they're progressing forward so that they can reopen or get back to normalcy soon. But for you and your operations and your business, how has that changed or evolved for you guys trying to figure out what to do next?
Sure. So, during this time, we sort of went into hibernation for much of last year. We still had all of the staff working. Every single person that was working with us before the pandemic is with us now, and we had them working in half schedules. So, it was time that we could spend with families. We could go travel to Cambodia and just kind of take a bit of a break for a year. And so now, this year, we really have focused on reaching out to agents, a lot of agents in the U.S., touching base, making new connections, because, I know that the companies that they may have relied on may not exist at this point. So, we just want to be there, ready to help in any way we can.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful story. We have tried to continuously figure out ways to keep ourselves busy. Going from the hustle and bustle of continuous operations to slowing down, and really assessing, what we're doing, the purpose of why we have our travel company, and figuring out what we can do to improve our services. And I think for the companies or the tours and travel tourism sector, taking this time back and stepping back and looking at what you have, and trying to figure out ways to package that for the future is going to be a big opportunity for all the tour operators. The preferences and priorities for these new future travelers are going to change. And us going through all of this and preparing ourselves is going to be an experience in its own. When I tell my kids, you're the first people in history that went through virtual learning. This is the first time in history the world has stopped like this. And it's going to be interesting what happens in these next couple months and years coming into the future. As we talk about how operations have evolved, we're now in 15 months after the initial shutdown of the world. And so now we hear rumblings of travel bubbles, different strategies on how they're going to open, but potentially Phuket and Bali are set to open on July 1st. Do you think that is going to be the start of the region? Because I know all the other countries are really watching Thailand and Indonesia and seeing how they figure out to bring international tourism. Do you think the majority of countries are going to start prioritizing inbound tourism soon?
I completely agree with you, Alvin. Actually, July 1st presents a very unique opportunity, especially in Phuket, because prior to the pandemic, if you wanted to go see Maya Bay, there were crowds of people. If you want to go to Phi Island, crowds of people.
Yep.
But now, a lot of people are not quite ready to travel yet. So these first couple of months that they open up will present a unique opportunity to be able to see these places without all the tourists, to be able to see these places without during the peak of the tourism season, you have a lot of, on the beaches, sometimes it accrues like garbage and things like this. And so it can be a little bit less pleasant during the peak times. But if you come at this time, it can be an excellent opportunity to visit these places when there's just not a lot of other people and when these places are just the cleanest and their peak performance.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, I went to Istanbul 2 months ago, and it was great. Airports were empty. There was no one in line. Again, for all the viewers, you'll have to assess your health, whatever, concerns that you have. But health aside, when you go travel, this is like the perennial time. I mean, you go around and just like, oh my gosh, I get the best photos now.
What's happening too, Alvin, is a lot of these hotels, when, they're just happy to get a guest.
Yeah.
And so they'll upgrade rooms for you. They'll treat you like kings and queens.
Yeah.
And they'll treat you like royalty because, this is just, they haven't had guests for, very many guests for years. So anyone who is traveling is getting the best treatment.
Yeah. So, we talk about real estate, how sellers market, buyers market. It's really like a buyer's market at this point because tourism and the tourism and travel sectors in foreign countries are very excited to get travelers back. And so, like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. It will almost replicate the golden age of travel back then when people were very excited to see inbound tourism into their destinations.
Yes.
I'm really excited because you're right. I mean, I would love a free upgrade anywhere in Thailand or one of those exquisite luxury resorts. But, as we keep talking about the reopenings, travel bubbles were meant to be short-lived. And in terms of short amount of time, travel corridors were a transition only for a more efficient and a better way to encourage tourism without jeopardizing public health. Now that vaccination rollouts are increasing in America, in Canada and UK, in your opinion, how long do you think it will take for other countries to allow vaccinated travelers to enter?
That's a great question, Alvin. From watching the situation and the discussions going on between the health ministries and the government officials, what I see happening right now is October 1st is going to be a big date. There's going to be a lot of provinces that are already approved to open in Thailand. 6 of them are approved now, and they're looking at approving 4 more. So maybe Chiang Mai and several other very popular destinations with beaches will be opening up in Thailand October 1st. And then they're also considering to open up Bangkok too. That was not on the initial agenda, but now they're talking about opening up Bangkok on October 1st. That one's still in discussion. That's not approved yet. But if it doesn't happen October 1st, January 1st is the next date to look forward to. Okay. Because on January 1st, all of Thailand in the current plan, they will open up all of Thailand for vaccinated travelers. And I can tell you that the other countries such as Laos, Cambodia, they watch very closely what Thailand's doing. And initially, when the lockdowns happened, they were watching what Thailand was doing, and they just followed the same thing because they don't have a very big international airports. The big international airports are in Thailand and Vietnam. Okay. So once Thailand opens up, then already now Cambodia is in discussions about, okay, can we open up Siem Reap on October 1st, where Angkor Wat Temple and all of these beautiful ancient temples are. So that's what they're discussing right now. Vietnam, they're also discussing opening up several places on either September or October. They were wanting to get really competitive to try to open it up on September, but I think that's got pushed back, and now they're considering for October of this year. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of options opening up. I would keep an eye out for October 1st. If you want to do last minute travel and you want to see a lot of these countries, that's a good time. Or January 1st would definitely be definitely be a good time to come visit these countries.
No, that's exciting. going through so many months of just waiting, anticipation to actually, tentative dates, even though we know there's going to be a lot of uncertainty about and a lot of factors that will play into the reopening, just having a date just makes it more real on the recovery of travel. So I'm really excited. July 1st, September, October, whatever date, we're getting closer and closer to the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm just so excited that the countries are starting to realize the opportunities that they can do to reopen for travel. But it's not just vaccinations. It's also about the quarantine procedures. And in Southeast Asia, they've had some of the hardest and strictest travel quarantine procedures. I mean, Thailand just went back from 7 to 14 days. Vietnam is currently at 21 days. But in terms of quarantine procedures, do you think this will be an ongoing trend of maybe 3 or 4 days quarantine before they re-enter the general public? Or do you think there will be some relaxation in the coming months as well?
That's a great question, Alvin. So what they are talking about and what's going to happen for July 1st, and Thailand has not changed the plan on this. I mean, they are still set on Phuket, July 1st. Mm-hmm. If you arrive in Phuket and you've got the approved vaccines that are mentioned on the Thailand Tourism Authority website, then you can enter the country and you can start traveling. You can go visit places on day one.
Mm-hmm. I think
no quarantine.
No quarantine. I think that's like the biggest thing for a lot of international travel, especially from the American market, to travel all the way to Southeast Asia and then feel like you're confined to a hotel, even though you're vaccinated. But I think, in part, we have to realize the importance of what they're trying to do, trying to protect the general population of their countries, trying to assess the infection rates. And they've done a great job of maintaining that. And I really want to set out that it's important because they do want to bring in new foreign travelers. We've all seen what happened. And when we talk about China having such a large hand in a lot of things, but especially in Southeast Asia, they're the most predominant foreign travelers that enter Southeast Asia. I think they account for almost like 20%. I mean, Philippines, my home country, they represent about 55% of inbound tourism. But with the pandemic, we've realized that Southeast Asia has to diversify their markets. And I think you mentioned it earlier, you've started reaching out to more travel advisors, more people, more organizations in America to try to bring in and increase inbound tourism. So do you think that's going to be a big thing for Southeast Asia to really look outside of their normal, gateways to bring in tourism, or to look out to North America, South America, or different markets?
Yeah, absolutely. They're focused right now on, of course, safely opening up these markets. And we were talking about Phuket just a minute ago, and I just want to mention one thing is that so right now this month, they are putting all their vaccines to Phuket. So there's just about 600,000, 700,000 people there, okay? So all of the locals there are getting vaccinated right now. Most of them have been vaccinated. So that's the first thing that they're doing in Phuket before they'll open up. And that's for each of these destinations. They're making sure that they have a minimum of 70% of the local population vaccinated before they open up, just to do it safely. To your question though, I feel that yes, before the pandemic, of course, North America was a very important market for Southeast Asia. Obviously, they do have other markets like China, Europe, South America, but and Australia, because that's just in the backyard. But yes, definitely, North America is always a very important market for this region, and so they are doing their best to be prepared to accept that for those travelers.
Yeah, I'm really excited because, a lot of Americans, they travel to Caribbean, Mexico, Europe. Southeast Asia is one or more of those bucket list things. But over the pandemic, a lot of people are trying to find more purpose, more meaning, trying to get off these bucket list destinations because they never know what will happen. And I think it's a perfect time or perfect opportunity for tour operators in Southeast Asia to really focus on the U.S. market, because there's going to be a lot of money to be spent, a lot of people who are looking to explore faraway places. And I think Southeast Asia, I mean, they've been increasing their inbound tourism since 2010 steadily. I think now, I mean, when it started in 2010, it was like $197 billion, and now it's somewhere around $393 billion. So there's a lot of opportunities coming in. And Southeast Asia has always had that allure and aura of just, just cultures that we just don't know about, and just lost. And, like you mentioned Angkor Wat, a temple built in the middle of a jungle, and the engineering marvels of how they've done it is just so amazing that people just need to be there and see it.
Absolutely.
Post-COVID, tourism will really focus on health and safety, and really attract tourists from countries to shift towards more environmentally and sustainable practice. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we'll be focusing on right after the break. But I'm really glad to have you on the show. But after the break, I remind all of our viewers that we're going to chat with Jeremiah about what to look out for when planning your next trip to Southeast Asia. So check us out. We'll be right back. See you again.
Travel? We got all the travel buzz here on Smart People Travel Wise with Alvin Adriano on PHLV Radio.
Yeah. Welcome back to Smart People Travel Wise. I'm your host, Alvin Adriano, and I'm here with Jeremiah Johnson from Luxe, Voyage Asia, discussing on how travel to Southeast Asia continues to evolve. We're back in this segment, and we're going to switch up our conversation more towards inspiration. We really want to inspire people to look forward to their future plans, and hopefully Southeast Asia is on their roster. But we both feel very confident travel will be resuming soon. And while we are waiting for travel restrictions and quarantines to be relaxed, we can dream. So we're here with Jeremiah to really dream about what places that we should go next. So let's get right into it. Europe is heavily attractive for tourists. However, Asia Pacific continues to grow in steady numbers. Based on your experience, how long do you think it will take for international tourism to resume in Southeast Asia?
Well, like we talked about before, I think it's definitely going to get jump started on July. October, it's going to pick up more. And then the first of the year, I think things will really start to pick up. But it's really up to travelers. It's really up to people. I mean, I think most people right now in the States feel like, and the people I've talked to, my friends and family, feel like, okay, we've been locked down for over a year, and we haven't really gotten a chance to get out, see anything. And so now, they maybe have some money saved up, and it's like, okay, let's get out and do something. Let's see the world. So yeah, I think people are just getting a little bit, travel bug, like you said earlier. So yeah, definitely people will want to come. I think that a lot of people will probably be starting next year, first quarter of the year. Mm-hmm. A lot of travelers will be coming in at that time.
And honestly, that's the quarter four and quarter one are usually the best times to go to Asia. That's when it's the coolest, yes. So that's perfect time for us to start planning vacations. But with that said, there's a lot of transitioning. We talked about how empty it is. Bangkok always has issues with over tourism. And Bangkok is the mecca of city tourism in Southeast Asia, followed by Singapore, Tokyo, and then Phuket. But for other countries like Cambodia and Laos, do you think they're going to follow suit by creating marketing that will entice people to their destinations to help with the recovery?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alvin. Thailand, they have a fairly healthy marketing budget, so they spend quite a bit in North America. But I always encourage travelers when I'm talking to travelers to consider including Laos and Cambodia on their bucket list, because a lot of people don't even know about these two countries and just the beautiful places and opportunities to see. In fact, most of my travelers, when they come to visit Thailand and then they go to visit Cambodia or Laos, they'll tell me afterwards that they actually liked Laos and Cambodia better than Thailand or than Vietnam. Of course, they love Thailand and Vietnam, but these two countries, the people are just extremely friendly, and the places here, they're not as crowded as Thailand usually is, or Vietnam is. So sometimes it's nice to visit those places that aren't advertised as well, because you can get off the beaten path, the beaten path, and travel and see these places that these highlights that most people don't get to see.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think that's one thing that I am so ready to see. A lot of people, we get fed a lot of things in our marketing, in mass media, and everyone knows that Bangkok is a very well-marketed product or destination. But other countries like Cambodia, Phnom Penh, do you think other cities like these will have a more visibility and exposure coming up in the future?
Yes, they are starting to put some budget towards marketing Angkor Wat. For Laos, not so much. Laos, they're still very traditional and just kind of disconnected from the rest of the world. I mean, they're very friendly people, and of course they have internet, but as far as their government's concerned, they're not. They don't have those connections in place like Thailand or Vietnam. Cambodia is starting to get there. But yeah, it's always, the way I look at it is, places like Laos, and I've visited a lot of places in Laos. It's always a great opportunity, these places that aren't marketed as well, to go visit, because they just are absolutely gorgeous places too.
Yeah.
But you're just not going to see the commercials or anything like that. So you have to do a little more research, or just contact a company like ours. We can put together an itinerary, and then you can see what's all available. But yeah, we would love to talk about what's possible to do, and that's something I certainly enjoy.
Well, they come on and watch our discussion and get insider tips of where they need to go next, right?
Yeah, sure.
And this is why I love talking to people about travel, because, there's like 197 countries in the world, and I've probably only been to like 50, but still learning about all the different places from your perspective, from experiences. It really helps you like, I've always wanted to go here, but I never knew about this place. So, since you mentioned about Cambodia and Laos, can you just give our viewers, I guess, a little bit of a teaser of what they can expect in the future, or what they should start planning for when they visit some of these countries in Southeast Asia? So
definitely, Alvin. I'll start off by talking about my own backyard here in Seaweed, Cambodia. It's just a few miles from my house. These temples, actually, it's one of Hollywood's best kept secrets. You'll see in movies these temples appearing, but you don't know where that temple is, and they don't mention it, okay? If you watch the movie Transformers, if you watch the movie Tomb Raider, okay? Bayon with these smiling faces, you'll see it in the movie Transformers. You'll see in these different Hollywood movies, these beautiful stone temples in the jungle, and have no idea where it is. Well, I can show you these places. They're, right here. And so, if you want to go, we can arrange, for example, like bicycling through these ancient city trails, okay? Wow. Stone cities with these walls that encompass them from around 800, 700 years ago, okay? So there's a lot of history to do with like Buddhism and Hinduism too. Both of those have influenced the temples in this region. Now, Angkor Wat Temple, that is actually the #1 heritage site in the world in most rankings. If you go online and you search, okay, what's the top heritage sites in the world? Okay, and you go through several different ranking lists, you're going to find Angkor Wat is usually #1 or number 2. TripAdvisor, it usually ends up as the #1 heritage site in the world. Angkor Wat, it's over 4 times the size of the Vatican City in Rome. Just this one temple, okay? And it's got 3 layers in it, okay? There's these 5 towers. If you're looking at it head on, you'll see several towers that they are lined up. When they built this, actually it was built as a calendar, okay? If you come certain times of the year during the autumnal equinox or the vernal equinox, what you'll see is the sun will rise right over the middle tower. Okay, it'll come up. You'll see that it'll just get brighter and brighter, and then all of a sudden you see the sun right above the middle tower, just 2 times a year. So it was built as a calendar. Okay, where hundreds of years ago, centuries ago. So the people at that time, the genius and brilliance. There's also other temples too. Like actually, Cambodia has a pyramid. There's a 7-tier pyramid in Cambodia that you can go visit. Koh Kea, just about an hour and a half from Siem Reap. In Laos, there's a lot of very interesting places to visit too. One of my favorites, they used to, years ago, okay, the only way you could get into Laos was you had to go up through Thailand. This was before airplanes, okay? You had to go up through Thailand. You had to get onto a traditional boat up in northern Thailand on the Mekong River, okay? And then you go down the Mekong River. It's a 2-day trip. You'd stop at Pak Beng, and there's many of these. It's jungles and on the Mekong River, and there's villages. You'll see these villages, and they're still there. I mean, these villages are just very traditional, very disconnected from the rest of the world. But, a lot of them, I mean, they still have straw huts and everything. So you can stop and visit these. And some of them, they speak Khmer, or they'll speak Tai Lu, or they have their own languages, okay? Hmong. And so the guide, will be able to talk to them if he speaks that particular dialect, that particular language. So, they wear very colorful apparel. They have their own unique style. So right now, the shirt you're wearing, okay, that's very American style. Well, they actually make all their own clothes, and they have these very colorful garments. One time I was visiting this village, and I met the eldest lady in the village, okay, it was a Hmong village. And she was working on this, she was 76 years old, 77, working on this dress for her great-granddaughter, who was going to turn 16. And she had already been working on this dress for 12 months, and she still wasn't halfway done, okay? And there's just so much detail, that all of the decor and designs and beads and everything that they put on there. So, I mean, they just put an incredible amount of time. I guess when you don't have YouTube or internet to watch, you have more time to do those types of things. So, then you continue on downstream, and there's, at Pak Beng, this is a trading post that's been there for, centuries. And there are elephants there. You'll see elephants bathing in the Mekong River, okay? They still use elephants for work and such, the locals there. And then you continue down to Luang Prabang town. Luang Prabang, it is the Buddhist capital, I would say, one of the highest percentage of Buddhist monks per capita than anywhere in the world, okay, in this one town of Luang Prabang. It used to be the king's city of Laos, where the kings lived, up until it moved to Vientiane about just a couple decades ago. And so this town has a lot of old temples. It has temples from 600 years ago, 700 years ago. It has the Mekong River and the Khan River going on both sides of it. So it's at the confluence of these 2 rivers. And it's surrounded by hills and mountains, okay, and jungles. And so this town is a beautiful town. On the way, though, before you get there, there's this series of caves where travelers for centuries would stop, and they would put tiny Buddhist statues inside these caves. And so they're crammed full with just thousands of these tiny Buddha statues, some bigger statues.
Oh, wow.
Just all of these Buddha statues inside of these caves. Because, there was this myth, this legend that there was this Naga, or it's like dragon, a river dragon that lived in the river at that time, that they believe. And so they would put these Buddhas in the stage to pray to the Lord Naga to please give us safe passage as we, make our journey here so nothing bad happens to us. And now young couples will still go, and those, when they after they get engaged, it's a tradition to go and put a Buddha in one of these caves. So it's kind of nice to visit and see, it's really kind of a strange, odd part of the world. Let's talk about food. Food is a really important element in our lives. And so, I love to talk about different foods that you really have to try when you're in these countries, okay? So in Laos, one of the favorite foods that I enjoyed was, there's something called Mekong seaweed, deep fried seaweed. They get seaweed from the Mekong, then they fry it, so it's really crispy, and then they fry it with like chili, and so it's got kind of a flavor to it. And so it's a little bit spicy, but kind of like eating potato chips, but it's a little healthier for you because it's seaweed. Yeah. That's one you can try. It's more of a local dish, and most foreigners, when they visit there, won't have a chance to try it unless you ask the guide or someone that you know there. Another one is Fil-Am soup. It's a type of local soup just in Luang Prabang and around Luang Prabang, and they'll get all of these different roots and vegetables from mushrooms from the jungle that they use, just specific to this region. So you cannot make it anywhere else, okay? And they use a special kind of wood that is actually spicy, a little bit spicy. It's edible. You can actually eat this wood. Well, cinnamon is something that we eat on a regular basis, but this is a different kind of wood that they put in the soup. And I've had it before, and I ate it. It was actually pretty good. It was a little bit spicy, not really spicy, but just because it's kind of chilly in that part. Yeah, it's a higher altitude, and so it's just like the perfect kind of soup to just warm you up and heat you up after a cold day of a morning of visiting the Mekong River. Yeah. Another beautiful area to visit in Laos is further south. If you head to the southern, near Cambodia, okay, the southern border, there's an area called 4,000 Islands, okay? This area has a lot of history because you could not, the French, when they tried to trade with Laos, they could not get a boat up through this area. So what they ended up doing was they built a train system where they have the train cars, because there's just a lot of waterfalls. You can't pass it, okay? There's only one boat in history that actually made it up through this part of the Mekong River, okay? It's just the way the water flows there, and the speed at which the water flows, the waterfalls and the rocks and everything, you just can't maneuver through pass through there. So they set up a train system where the train would come down to this one island, and then the cars would have to get off the train, they'd have to lower them down, and they'd have to cross to the other island. Then they would go on a train across that island, and then come to the other side, and then come down and get into Cambodia. Okay, so that was the trade route that they used to get the wood out of Laos into other parts of the world for many, many years. But what's really cool is in that region, they have a very rare Mekong dolphin. Okay, it's a freshwater dolphin. Okay, and these dolphins, they're called Irrawaddy dolphins. Yep. You can actually go into this dolphin pool, do some kayaking, and you'll see dolphins popping up occasionally. And there's just about 11 or 12, and there's not a whole lot of dolphins there, but you can definitely see them when they come up. So it's kind of interesting. Also in that region, there's this one of my favorite waterfalls in the world is called Tad Phane Waterfall. It's this twin waterfall, and the waterfall's down. It's like I think it's about a kilometer. I mean, it's really quite a distance that it falls down. So these two waterfalls in the middle of the jungle. I think I might have a picture that you can show the guests. So that's a really beautiful area. There's a lot of coffee that they grow in that region too. So you can try Lao coffee. Also, there are a lot of unique ethnic minority villages in Laos that you can visit in Hmong and Tai Lu, like I was mentioning before. One of the villages that I visited in southern Laos, they make these wooden carved statues, okay, that are actually used by a lot of hotels in the region now. They'll go to this village to buy it because when they make these, they make them look like really antiquish and just kind of a really weird look on the faces. They make these. It's kind of like something you might see like Easter Island, okay? The faces, the stone faces there. So it's really unique. It's just different. And so it's always cool to kind of stop there. But you have to go through, if you go in the wet season, you really can't get there because the roads are just not very good. But I mean, you have to go on like a dirt trail for a couple minutes off the road to find where they're at. And it's always a trick. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff to see. One other area in Laos that I've enjoyed seeing is what's called the Plain of Jars. The Plain of Jars, they're these gigantic stone jars that were made around, they dated them and they're like around 3,000 years old, okay? So you think like 2,000 years old, that's like the Roman Empire, Jesus Christ, that sort of thing. 3,000 years old. I mean, that's just ancient, right? So, well, they don't know who made them. They don't know how they made them because they found the quarry sites where they made them. And it's around, say like 15 miles away from where these jars are at. One of the largest jars is 6 tons.
6 tons?
6 tons. You and I could both stand inside of it. And, you wouldn't see our heads. Yeah. Okay. It's huge. I mean, these jars and there's just hundreds of these. It's called the Plain of Jars. And some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. So some of them might go up to your waist and some of them, so they don't know what they used them for, why they put them there. Okay. It's just kind of one of those mysteries that it's like, well, that's really cool to go see, So, but it's a little bit off the beaten path to get there. So, we can also talk too about maybe Vietnam and Thailand.
Just speaking to you about this, I'm just so amazed. I want to travel now to these places, and that's the beauty of travel. It's not to judge or evaluate; it's just to understand what people go through or what they do or how their lives evolve. And just talking to you about Southeast Asia, even though I've traveled pretty extensively through it, I'm even amazed by the things that I haven't seen because, I mean, you can't just see everything. It takes years and years of talking to people and researching because a lot of these non-main cities don't have the tourism infrastructure that people are looking for. And I think that's going to be a big point in the future for more flights, rebuilding of these local airports. And just like you mentioned before, I think Vietnam is going to be a great place for a lot of people to start visiting. And I would love to hear like Da Nang, Hoi An, Ho Chi Minh. These are all beautiful places that people don't even realize. Let's talk more about Vietnam. Where can we go in Vietnam, Jeremiah?
Sure. So moving over to Vietnam, of course, a lot of people like to see Ho Chi Minh City. Usually if you'll see a lot of trips where they'll go through and they'll start in Ho Chi Minh City. Ho Chi Minh City, it's okay. I mean, I I don't recommend it for my guests if they don't need it for the international flights.
Right.
There are some other places. It's a hot city, and it's nice if you're a war veteran. There's a lot of war history in Ho Chi Minh City, but there's also the Mekong Delta. If you want to go and visit what's called the breadbasket of the world, where they grow much of the rice in the world. It's like 5% of the rice comes from the Mekong Delta region. So heading out of Ho Chi Minh City south, there's just a lot of beautiful rice paddies. There's a lot of fruit orchards that you can visit. They grow all sorts of kind of fruit, like dragon fruit, durian. I'm sure you're familiar with durian. You got that in the Philippines, right? They grow mangoes. They grow, just tons of different things. So they'll actually come and congregate the locals. They'll bring their produce and on boats, because the delta there is primarily a lot of water, and so they'll come through these canals, meet together, and form a market with these boats. And so you can trade and you can buy and sell. So they'll trade with each other over these boats. So I'll take 5 of your mangoes for my dragon fruit, so that's usually what they do. Heading up north, though, like you said, Da Nang and Hoi An. Hoi An Ancient Town is just a beautiful town to visit. What I suggest, though, a lot of people will go in the morning, but what I really recommend is you go in the late afternoon. Go about like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, because at around 6 o'clock, 6:30, when it's dusk time, they do a tradition that they've done for centuries, where they'll light lanterns throughout the ancient town there. So these lanterns on all the homes, it just is a completely magical time of day to walk the streets of Hoi An, these cobblestone streets with these traditional Vietnamese lanterns lit up in the houses. It's just a beautiful time to visit. Also in Hoi An, speaking about food, there's a particular kind of noodle that's called cow lao noodles. Okay, and these noodles, there's only one family that makes them in town. Okay, they have a special recipe, and then everyone buys the noodles from this family. But they have to go through like a 2 or 3 day process to make these noodles. And they've done it for centuries. It's like a family recipe that's been passed down. And but you can buy the cow lao noodles anywhere. They serve the dishes at all the restaurants, but they all buy it from this one family. And they have a recipe where they have to use a special kind of ash from trees from the Cham Islands. They have other ingredients that they use when they're preparing these noodles. Okay, and it gives it a very unique flavor. Okay, that you can't buy it anywhere else in the world. So this is, if you're in Hoi An, you got to try these noodles. Okay,
so that's tip number 2 on this show.
Yeah. So another thing to try in Hoi An is what's called white rose dumplings. Those are also a unique dish. Of course, you've had dumplings in other places, but Hoi An is unique because it sometimes it's kind of like the United States, where the United States is a mixing pot, a melting pot. Well, it was a mixing pot of Japanese, of Chinese, and of Vietnamese all the way back in the 16th century, because it was a very important trade port. Okay. And so there's a lot of culture there. The dishes are influenced by, these different elements. Okay. And now you think of, in the United States, we have pizza, right? Yeah. Well, pizza originally is from Italy, but we have our own version of it, right? Yeah. It's just kind of, it's now what you go anywhere in the world, they have Pizza Hut, they have, all these different pizza places from the United States. Well, it's kind of, set its mark around the world. Well, that's kind of some of these dishes in Hoi An are similar in that sense, that they are a combination of multiple cultures. And so they're unique in that you can't get them anywhere in the world. Moving up north. So if you go north of Hoi An, you drive through, there's Da Nang Bay has just these hundreds of these basket boat fishermen that go out each day, and you'll see them just peppering the bay. So there'll be just hundreds of them out there. And as you're driving along the highway there, you'll just see all these basket boat fishermen out. And they're not doing it for the tourists, so it's not something that they're getting paid to do that. They're going for the fish, right?
Yeah.
But it's great to see just kind of this traditional way of going and fishing. And then as you continue up north, you go through these mountain, what's called Haiban Pass. Haiban Pass, it means where the clouds meet, where the mountain meets the sky, meets the clouds. So when you go up in there, you'll go up into like a cloud, basically. You'll drive up into a cloud and it's just totally foggy, okay? Uh-huh. And then there's a temple up there you can visit, and then just keep going north until you go through a bunch of, you come back downhill. There's very windy roads, but they're good roads. And you'll see a lot of beautiful coasts in that region, beautiful beaches that are just untouched. Driving up through there. It's about a 3.5 hour ride, so it's nothing, and there's several places to stop along the way between Hoi An and Hue. Now, Hue, that was the ancient imperial city of Vietnam. So during the imperial times, like the 1800s, that was the capital of Vietnam. And they were influenced a lot because the emperors were very close to China. Okay. So they had a lot of influence from China. In fact, if you've ever visited the Forbidden City in China, they got the same schematics, the same plans, and modified it for the Vietnamese, and they built the Forbidden City in Hue. Okay, it's called the Hue Imperial Citadel. Okay, it's just this elaborate structure. A set of structures and these compounds. And it has two parts. There's the part where the politicians and the people could go. And then there's the part for the emperor and his concubines, okay, where they could only go, which was called the Forbidden City. If anyone else went in there, only eunuchs, the concubines, and the emperor could go in there. Anyone else, it was a death penalty. You were put to death. Okay, so serious stuff. But now you can go there and they're not going to kill you or anything. You can walk in and see all these artifacts from history. So yeah, a lot of beautiful artwork, a lot of beautiful gardens in there. They have a lot of well-cut manicured gardens and libraries and things inside of the Forbidden City. They have in Hue, you have to try the food there because in the food that they make, a lot of Asian foods for the commoners, they still have the bones and they still have the shells and everything in, and you have to do a lot of work, right? Yeah. But the food for royalty was not like that. The food for royalty, they did all the prep ahead of time. They, so it's a lot like American food where, all the bones have been removed. You can eat the whole thing and you don't have to worry about getting bones. And so they have all sorts of really unique dishes for the royalty in Hue. And they focus on the food presentation. They do a lot of carvings of vegetables like carrots and cabbage and various things to make these elaborate decor. Okay? Wow. They'll make they'll make all sorts of kind of birds and animals that in the decorations. So if you eat in Hue, you really have to just go out and try the traditional food. It's really just something else. And you'll be taking photos because it's just the way they present the food is just absolutely amazing. And they've been doing that for several hundred years.
That's awesome. I mean, coming from a culinary background, presentation makes up like 30% of what it will actually taste like. People love to see how good things are. So maybe they got it from the Hue.
Definitely.
But we're reaching to the top of the hour and we can talk travel all day. I mean, I'm just like mesmerized by your knowledge and insights about all of these beautiful places. And that's really why we wanted you on the show, to really share and just inspire us about the possibilities, because that's what travel is, finding possibilities in the most distant locations, far away places, and things that you've never realized. And that's what we lost in 2020. And hopefully soon, all our viewers and listeners and anyone who's looking to travel can really take advantage of this unique opportunity in time that we can go and see these beautiful places. And thank you so much, Jeremiah, for spending some time here with us and really digging down and sharing the type of knowledge that you have. For all of our viewers, for social media and internet is our, go-to thing for information. If anyone wanted to find you or your company, where can they go on the website or Facebook or anything like that?
Yes. We have a website, luxevoyageasia.com. We also have a Facebook page too that people can go visit. We've got a TripAdvisor page. You can do reviews from our past travelers. Those are the main options. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking out the time of your day and chatting travel with us. I'm sure we'll bring you back on the show and really get more information once July 1st passed and we have a little bit more of a basis to figure out when the recovery will happen. And for sure, I'm going to be headed to Asia soon because I can't wait to find some of these places like the jars and eat some food. Now I know there's 2 forbidden cities in the world and can't wait to show my wife about that place. But it's even crazier that even though we are in a temporary lockdown, that the idea of traveling continues to embellish people's minds. So as we patiently wait for the relaxation of travel restrictions, I'm hoping that many future travelers will consider Southeast Asia on their new bucket list plans. But with that said, Jeremiah, is there any final thoughts that you can share with our viewers?
Well, Alvin, I could probably go on for another hour or two about these places. But no, feel free to, I just would suggest viewers to view some of the itineraries on our website, also your website, and do some research now because now is a great time to start planning and looking at travel, especially if you want to visit during the times before the masses start going to travel in next year and onward. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. It's always a pleasure chatting with you about travel, and I hope we can catch up soon, hopefully in person. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you, Alvin.
Well, thank you to all our viewers and listeners who have been able to join us during our show. We know travel is coming back, and as you begin to plan your vacations and future plans, always consider Southeast Asia and all of the countries with their wonderful treasures, lost civilizations, from beaches to mountains to culinary, and award-winning properties all across this region. There's going to be an explosion of exquisite marvels that continue to amaze travelers alike. If any of our viewers would love more information about traveling to Southeast Asia, please contact our agency, TravelWise International, at 301-248-8898, or you can visit us on the web at www.itravelwise.com. You can always tune in on our travel talk show, Smart People Travel Wise, every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time and 3 p.m. East Coast time. Again, my name is Alvin Adriano, CEO of TravelWise International, a Filipino-owned and operated travel agency that's dedicated in serving the Filipino people since 1989. If you do need help planning on your next vacation or anywhere in the world like Southeast Asia, please reach out to our experienced travel advisors. We are dedicated to making your dreams reality. So till next time, mabuhay, smart people, travel wise.
Ray Valera po, listen to Filipino Radio Experience in Las Vegas, PHLV Radio.
This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas, PHLV Radio.